Morning, everybody. I got a question from one of my friends about how do you figure out what scale to play and or what chords to play if you're just jamming with people and you hear someone change up the chords, or you're coming into a jam session and people are playing stuff, you're not sure what to play. You don't want to play a whole bunch of notes to figure it out, kind of stepping on people, but you want to quickly know what scale to play and what chords to play. If you watch my other videos, you know that I think of scales as ways of traveling up and down your interface, sort of touring different realms of music with different feelings. So these ways of traveling have certain feelings attached to them. So this feels different than this, feels different than this. Right? They're different ways of traveling between the same two notes, but they have different feelings attached to them. A very crucial scale that you can use all the time in most situations is what's called the pentatonic scale. And that is penta based on 5 because it has 5 notes in the scale. I'll do the minor one in C. You've heard it before. You've heard it as the blues scale where they add an extra note. So you got a sort of abstract and simplified way to run over different chords. Now, what are chords? We talked about scales as ways of traveling. Talked about chords as kind of like stopping points along your route. So if I start off with my starting point, skip a note, take another starting point, skip a note, take another stopping point rather, skip a note, take another stopping point, play all those stopping points at the same time, you have maybe what you can think of as like a map. And that map, you can run up and down the road that is outlined by that map with your scale. So I just did 1, 3, 5, and 7 of C minor chord, and now I'm able to play something that's known as a minor pentatonic scale, and that is first note, skip one, the third note, the fourth note, the fifth note, skip one, the seventh note, and back to so you skip over the 2, and the 6. So a normal 7-note scale becomes a 5-note scale. 5 notes are easier to digest, easier to play, and easier to transfer from different chords. So I can play that same C minor pentatonic scale over a C. I can play it over an A flat, play it over an E flat, play it over an F, maybe a B flat. I can play it over a lot of different things. These are just a few of them, but those are the kind of the ones that jump out. I can play it even over a D flat. So the 5-note scale is a little more versatile and mobile and agile than your classic 7-note scale. There's a lot of different scales. There's all kinds of scales from other musical traditions such as Indian or Japanese that might have fewer or more notes. Between 3 and 24, you never know how many. So, but a scale is just a way of moving. That's kind of a certain road. So, if we learn how, I think the real thing to jam with people and to be able to just pick up and just play one note and find out where you are in the chord, where they are. So if they're playing C minor, and I come up and I just hit one note, and it's a B, this is right under the C. If I know what a C minor is supposed to sound like, that B then it's got a tension to it. It's not the right note, but the right note is always one note away. Just remember that when you're trying to jam with people, the right note is always one note away from wherever you are. So that's, not a hard and fast rule, but to some extent, you can sit there and just play one note and you'll understand pretty quickly whether it feels right or it feels wrong. When it feels wrong, you can just move one note up or down, say. Because there's probably going to be a right sounding note within one whole step, or one half step rather, away from where you are. So that feels a little tense. It's kind of cool. It could work if you go into that mood. That feels more right. Singing always helps. If you're singing in your head, you're internalizing how these sound. So if you sing when you practice, you know what it feels like in a different way than you do if you're just intellectually going. If you go C minor, you don't have to say C minor, but you kind of, if you get a sense for, I'm internalizing actually how that feels. I play that note. Now I can, in my head already. I don't have to say that out loud. In my head, I go. So you're practicing. I know that's what a minor chord feels like. I know that sound is not in the minor chord, so I know I just got to move one direction. If I go down, okay, or up. So yeah, so that's a very broad kind of treatment of something. I hope that gives you something specific to work on, namely, long run, if you're at the just phase of just starting out, what you want to do in order to be able to jam with people is sing while you practice. So you really have an idea of how chords feel, how scales feel, and then moving or hitting one note, you can kind of move to something that feels right or feels wrong, and you'll know fairly quickly whether you're in the right area. So the next phase is learning what each degree, scale degree or chord degree, feels like. And that entails essentially doing what I said, is singing while you practice, but also recognizing what note you're on. So again, C minor, that first, and do not play like this, by the way, this is a horrible example. I don't have my stool with me to sit up proper, but I just thought I'd demonstrate this theory stuff real quick. If I'm playing that, I know that the C is my bass note that I'm basing the chord off, right? The first note I start with of the scale is what's called your root note. And how a root note feels, pretty grounded. What about the third? 1, 2, 3. Does it feel like solid or grounded in a minor chord especially? But you can tell it's right. And it's kind of got that bluesy tone to it. The flattened third, they would call it if you're doing a major scale. Take the third. 1, 2, 3. Make it flat. Drop it down 1. So that minor third. It feels in there. It feels tense and dissonant like a minor chord should, but it's in there. And it wants to slide down back into the root. We got our fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 3, 5. Our fifth. It's definitely in there, but it's kind of hanging out around top middle. Alright, our seventh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. we know that each of these has a different feel, and you could use, say, a melody to memorize this, like something like "Ode to Joy," or "Mary Had a Little Lamb," or anything that you know well. Could be, Music Soul Child. It could be your favorite local polka band or whatever floats your boat. If you can figure out a very basic melody, you'll kind of know what it feels like. So I'm sorry to do this to you again, but let's just start off with "Mary Had a Little Lamb," because I know everyone knows that song. Or "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star" is even better because it starts on the 1. There we go. Yeah, "Twinkle Little Star." Okay. So if you start to memorize "Twinkle Twinkle Da 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 Da," you already have the interval known as the fifth. So just the beginning of that melody tells you what a fifth feels like. Now if I play this minor chord, it's the same work, but I can't be doing "Twinkle Twinkle." It's a good minor melody. Green Sleeves, you maybe know that. So that Green Sleeves is a good indicator for what a minor third sounds like. If you remember Green Sleeves, you start da da, twinkle twinkle da 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 da. Alright, so we got 2 melodies that tell us what these intervals feel like. And if we start mentally moving those around, twinkle, 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 little star, twinkle, twinkle, little star, twinkle, twinkle, little star, da-da. We know what fifths feel like all over the place. You take any note, da, twinkle, twink, twinkle. Forgive my vibrato there. Twinkle, twink, twinkle, 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 Okay, that establishes a foundation for you to then, it's not a quick, easy jump to being able to hear one note and know exactly where it is in the chord. But if you start that, then you have the foundation to do that, to be able to just hear one note and know exactly what those guys are playing, know exactly what chords they're going to play, know exactly what scales they're using, because you got it in your head as to what the relationships are between notes. It's more about relationships. If you have perfect pitch, power to you. If you're working on developing that, super power to you. I hear what you can do is like wake up every day for a month. It takes you like a year to do, but wake up every day and the first thing you do is play your whatever note you're focusing on that month. You got 12 notes on our Western musical keyboard, so in 1 year, wake up every day, sing your A, go to bed singing your A, and by the end of that month, you'll be able to wake up and just sing the A without the keyboard. That's great. If you can do that, great. I haven't done it yet. I hear it's something, certain people are kind of gifted with it and certain people have to learn it, but I hear that method really works. So if that's your goal, do that, and by any means, then you won't even have to worry about this relational stuff. But either way, it's good to know. I mean, it's probably more important for you to know this relational kind of schema or relational way of understanding this than it is to have perfect pitch. So if you get those twinkle twinkle little stars anywhere, you know what a fifth feels like. Boom, already you're off to the races. If you get your green sleeves, it goes from the 1, 3, 4, 5, 1, 3, 4, 5, da 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 da. That's your basic pentatonic scale. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. That's the full pentatonic. Da 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 da. I think in minor you can also think of it in major, so that would mean you start on the 3. da 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 da. All right, so your pentatonic scale will be useful because you can use it over more chords than your traditional major and minor scales. It's kind of just an abstract version of both the major and minor without in minor the second or the third. I'm sorry, the second or the sixth. Anyways, I ramble. Thank you guys for vibing with me. Twinkle, twinkle, little star up, and green sleeves it up, and you get those minor third and major or the fifth and the minor third in your head. It's going to really help you, and we'll get to the next phase. All right, thank you guys. Peace. See you next time.